probably going to be some cash dished out to some free agent coaching prospects candidates. We're going to go around the horn here, talk about what is making news. Of course, the Cardinals today, can never pronounce his first name, Avero, the DC from the Denver Broncos. He interviewed with the Cardinals today. We knew that was going down. Well respected. You know, if you get Sean Payton, if you get a Frank Wright, maybe you could do some pairing there. I don't see him as a future head coach yet. I think he'll probably be a DC somewhere else next year. But then we've got our guy, Dan Quinn, interviewing with both the Broncos and the Colts. Look at this graphic. I didn't even know we had this. Fantastic.
It's beautiful.
It is beautiful. And then you can see kind of what's going on with the Arizona Cardinals. Scheduled interviews, Aaron Glenn, Avero, my guy, DeMeco, of course, next week, Jonathan Gannon, Brian Flores. Avero was today. Brian Flores next week. They've already interviewed Frank Wright and Vance Joseph. Why those happened first, we talked about it, Bo. They have no affiliation to anybody else. You don't have, there's not a bunch of paperwork you got to deal with. Vance Joseph just basically lives at the facility now. He's available anytime. And then, of course, Frank Wright is, I was going to say homeless. He's not homeless. He's unemployed. I'm sure he lives in a nice house, but he has no ties to the Colts anymore.
Right.
And then, of course, the lingering question, the requested question of Sean Payton with New Orleans. But pretty stacked lineup here, but I wouldn't mind seeing some more names on this, Bo.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Maybe some bigger names, right? Only one that really, I like Flores. I don't have a problem with Flores. I don't have a problem. I really love Ryans, but when you see like Glenn and you've got two kind of relatively unknown kind of haven't been working at their defensive coordinator positions that long, and Gannon and Avero, I get Steve Wilkes vibes from them. Cardinals Steve Wilkes, not Carolina Panthers Steve Wilkes, but yeah, I mean, I like the Ryans, and I like, you know, that I'd love to see the Peyton at least get on the schedule at some point just to save a little bit of face. But yeah, the fact that they've only interviewed now Reich, Joseph, and who knows when Avero is actually going down, if it's happened already, if it's happening right now or later today. That the ones that they've actually had conversations with, it doesn't do anything for me. It doesn't move the needle. It doesn't kind of inspire hope for the Cardinals organization in the future if those are any of the coaches that they land on. So I'm starting to look at some of these bigger fish that were cast by this wide net from owner Michael Bidwill, and now that they've got Monty Austinford in the fold, that they'll start to kind of add a couple more well-respected names to the docket and start kind of checking them off the list. But maybe it's a little bit like, I don't know, when you're trying to get better at talking to the opposite sex or just trying to find somebody out there that you want to date, you just have to get out there and talk more. Maybe he's getting Monty Austinford up and trying to get his game at a certain level.
Vance Joseph getting like the first interview or one of the first, that does not bode well for VJ. Usually you say if you're not first, you're last. If you're first, you are last. Vance Joseph in this scenario. You mentioned a lot of those names don't do anything for you. What about Jeff Saturday? If you're an Indianapolis Colts fan, there is some momentum via our friend Jordan Schultz. He could end up getting the job. I want to run through a couple of these other names with the opposing teams that the Cardinals are competing against. Ken Dorsey, a name I thought the Cardinals might have some interest in. No, he's interviewing or scheduled to interview with the Carolina Panthers on Saturday. Again, Dan Quinn, I think, is going to end up in either Indianapolis or can end up in Denver if they don't get Sean Payton. Brian Callahan got an interview with the Colts. I think he is with, is he with Kansas City maybe? Can't ever tell. And then we've got the Colts supposedly having a great interview with Raheem Morris, who was maybe going to take over for Sean McVay in LA. This initial group for everybody, I mean, there's been like 30 names that have gotten interviews or are supposed to get interviews. And what I think is important to remember is our guy Benjamin Albright accurately depicted yesterday. It's just like these guys aren't always considered for head coaching vacancies. Sometimes, as Bo mentioned, it's like taking some swings at the batting cage, right? You want to get some kinks out. You want to work on your swing. Sometimes it's to pick the brain on your opposition. Sometimes it's just to do a guy a favor, which is, I mean, you hate to say it like that, but with Vance Joseph, like realistically, he's not going to get this job. Somebody else is going to take this job before it gets to Vance Joseph. So again, use the analogy I used yesterday. There were 10 openings last year. There are 5. And there are, I think, 5 good candidates available that will take jobs. The Cardinals are going to be able to exit out, Bo, of this hiring cycle with somebody that Cardinal fans should feel good about. I get it. Brian Flores is not everybody's cup of tea, and I understand that. But you can't say he's been an abject disaster failure. He won 9 and 10 games in the AFC East.
Yeah. If Brian Flores was fired from Miami and he went back to New England, what he was familiar with, and just started working back for Bill Belichick again and got back into his normal routine, I'd say, yeah, I'm a little concerned. He's probably not going to learn from his mistakes. He's not going to learn, the negatives from Miami. He went and worked for a guy who's never finished under 500 in his coaching career. Another, staple as far as NFL franchises go in Pittsburgh. And the model of consistency and sustained success. And he learned under Mike Tomlin. He didn't just go back and say, I'm going to go work for my guy, Bill Belichick again, and just get back to my normal stuff. I want to learn, where I can improve my coaching game. And according to Kenny Pickett, the rookie signal caller there, Brian Flores was instrumental as far as him working the 2-minute drill and gave him some tips. So it wasn't the same Brian Flores that ended his tenure in Miami, where he was reportedly alienating the offense from the defense.
And again, I'm not going to use this comparison because it's an easy one that people make in the media because of race, but it's because he went and wanted to learn from Mike Tomlin, the person and the head coach and the CEO of the team. And that's what Brian Flores would be and wants to be. You think Brian Flores, after leaving that dumpster fire organization in Miami, turned around and said, I want to go join, the easy street with New England? Or do I want to learn from the best in Mike Tomlin, who is able to consistently win despite problems around him with his roster? Big Ben, flaky Big Ben, retiring, unretiring. Kenny Pickett, a rookie who had no business playing this year. They somehow get to 9 wins. Mike Tomlin is the epitome of success in the NFL, and kudos to Brian Flores. He didn't say, no, you have to fire your DC or I'm not coming there. He's like, no, I'll just be an administrative assistant. I'll coach the linebackers. I'm just going to work with you side by side. So I am so bullish on Brian Flores. It's one, frankly, Bo, when we made our top 5 list back in November, I like Brian Flores. That's why I put him on. I didn't think the Cardinals were going to consider Brian Flores for all the reasons I think Cardinal fans are concerned. Is like, how would that dynamic work with Kyler Murray? I applaud Monty Ossenfort and especially Michael Bidwell for saying, you know what? This is the kind of guy we might need. And so while I still think today, if you had to ask me to put scratch on DraftKings, I would put my money even at plus 150 on Brian Flores. DeMeco obviously would be my first choice. To me, I get excited thinking about Brian Flores coaching this football team. And I know a lot of other people don't feel that way, and that's okay.
No, and normally I would, if you when you brought that up and Flores was somebody that
you didn't like it.
I didn't like it just because I know who the quarterback is, right? Yeah. And I know what's said about the quarterback and what, if Brian Flores, it's a simple question and answer, but I think the answer needs to be vetted as far as Monty Ossenfort, Michael Bidwell's, if he believes in Kyler Murray or if he wants to improve Kyler Murray and get him back on track. If he wants to challenge Kyler Murray, I'm all for that. But if he doesn't believe in Kyler Murray, then maybe he's not your guy. I don't think Brian Flores is that type of coach that wouldn't be up for that challenge.
I don't think so.
I don't know what happened with him and Tua, but it didn't work out. And we can't have history repeat itself where another talented young quarterback is kind of cast aside and asking himself if he can play at this level, because we've seen Kyler Murray can play at this level. Now we've seen Tua do it. And you're like, okay, what the hell happened? So that's the red flag I'm talking about. I just want all the cards on the table as far as that goes. Yeah, I'm with you. DeMeco Ryans right now, Brian Flores, I will take that as a legit consolation prize. We got some super chats in the chat.
Yeah, Marcus, thank you so much for the 5 spot, my man. Flores won 7 in a row with a crud roster and got fired. Ryans or Flores, and I'm cool. And we appreciate that.
Look at who they played to open that season. It was a murderer's row. I mean, I think they played some of the best teams in the league.
He was winning games with featuring Kenyon Drake. That was their offense. Devontae Parker, who was a bust. Here's what I'll say, and I'll push back a little bit on the Tua saga. He wanted to play Ryan Fitzpatrick because Ryan Fitzpatrick was a better player at that time, and he believed he gave him the best chance to win. You're not going to have that problem with Kyler Murray. There's not going to be a quarterback on the roster that gives anybody the better chance to win than Kyler Murray. Even Kyler Murray may be compromised next year at some point or learning a new offense. I think it legitimately was Tua can't beat out Ryan Fitzpatrick right now. I want to play Ryan Fitzpatrick, and he felt pressured by the ownership, of course, to tank and then to play Tua. Kyler Murray is your quarterback until he's not on the roster. And Brian Flores will know when Kyler Murray's humming, Kyler Murray's a top 5 to 7 quarterback in the NFL. We just have to get back to that point. So but I'm with you. Like the accountability thing, that has to be a concern of Michael Bidwell. There was no team, and we said it when we did our post-game shows this year, Bo, less prepared than the Arizona Cardinals to start the year. Go back and look at some of those early games. The Kansas City game, it didn't even look like the Cardinals practiced. Bo was there every day. They had training camp. They were doing some shit, but then they played other teams, real teams. They got undressed. Remember the first half of the Raider game? They were just not competitive, right? So to me, it's like that's what Brian Flores fixed, the preparation. We're not going to try to out-athlete people and say, well, we don't have to prepare. No, you might be able to get away with that in like the SEC when you're playing like 1AA schools, but you're in the NFL, man, and the margin for error is so small. And the margin of victory is so small, you have to be intellectually superior and you have to be buttoned up. And the Cardinals were so sloppy last year. Yeah. So I think from a talent perspective, he would respect Kyler Murray's talent. And man, like this team needs a kick in the ass in the worst way. And for everybody not named Budda Baker.
Can I give you some really refreshing statistics too? That
yes,
I was thinking about getting, but because the Cardinals fan base is just littered with like really informed fans,
the smartest fans.
Really, really smart fan base, including a ton of you, everybody in the chat, unbelievable. But K1 Future on Twitter put this out there. Brian Flores is a head coach to end a season because we know how much of a disaster it was with Cliff Kingsbury. It always was, right?
Yeah.
Who, according to Jordan Schultz, is just living it up on the Thailand beaches out there. Jordan Schultz talked to Cliff Kingsbury for 30 minutes, by the way, today. And he said he's just kind of looking at what he's going to do. But Brian Flores in 2021 went 8-2 down the stretch with the Dolphins. We haven't seen a finish like that. 6-3 and 5-4. Those are all above 500 finishes to the season. Something we haven't seen the entire tenure under Cliff Kingsbury. The entire tenure.
I don't know what that's like to win games.
1-6, did he go 4-3 in 2020?
If he went 5-4 down the stretch, I know that because they started over, and he won 5 of his last 9 games,
and then 0-7. I mean, and then this year it was they didn't win a game down the stretch. So
I'm talking about Brian Flores. I don't know how Cliff. I blocked out Cliff Kingsbury. The first year with Brian Flores was told to lose every game to get Tua, and he won 5 of 9 down the stretch.
Yeah.
He's a good football coach. We got Jason Krell, our guy in the chat, $1.99 super chat. Thank you so much, Jason. I'll take any of them, honestly. No nonsense, guys. I think listen, Cardinals aren't interviewing offensive guys. To put the Frank Wright thing aside for a second, we don't think he's a realistic head coaching option. The defensive guys are the hard asses. They're going to come in here and demand accountability. I mean, like, I don't know Jonathan Gannon, the play caller. I've seen the Eagles defense. It's good. It's stacked with players.
Yeah.
But everybody else that you're bringing in, it's just like everybody's perks up in their chair. We talked about it yesterday, and by hook or by crook, I'm going to get this clip at some point. The clip of Michael Bidwell basically stiff-arming Cliff Kingsbury saying, you guys are cutting corners in here. And when you're getting paid a premium, look at the Cardinals roster. I mean, overthecap.com does a great job. Some guys making a ton of money, and they're just hanging out. It's Camp Country Club over in Tempe. And so
Hassan
I'm sure
Reddick.
Michael Bidwell,
Hassan Reddick, Fletcher Cox, Darius Slay. You know, a lot of proven commodities on that defense for Jonathan Gannon. You know,
I don't like John Gannon.
I don't either. I don't understand why he's in the conversation in Houston. I don't know why he was the front runner. You know, and you can say the same about DeMeco Ryans, but I think there's a track record of people believing in him as a leader of men, as being a difference maker. And I think as far as even a very talented Niners defense under Robert Saleh even took a jump under a guy like DeMeco Ryans.
Producer Emma, could we see the updated DraftKings Arizona Cardinal head coaching odds if we could? This is where things stand with our friends at DraftKings. Not a lot of movement other than Mr. Brian Flores. I mean, shit, man, it's almost even money at this point. For those of you who don't know what these numbers mean, anytime you get plus money, it means you put $100 down. You don't have to put that much down, but if you put $100 down, you get paid out a profit of $150 in the case of Brian Flores. So if you put $100 down on Shane Bowen to become the next head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, you get paid out a profit of $900. That's what that means. If it goes
Joseph is cryptocurrency stock right now.
If it gets to minus, you'd have to put down whatever the minus is to win 100. So there's your little gambling lesson from your boy at PHNX Bets Daily. Any of these numbers stand out to you?
Yeah, Vance Joseph going from the betting favorite at one point, tied with Sean Payton, to now plus 500. He went from plus 300 to plus 325 to 350 to 500. It's
keep moving it.
Yeah, he is. Like an auctioneer would have a tough time just keeping up with his moving odds as far as Vance Joseph. And we've dug in on that. We don't believe that VJ is going to be the next head coach.
No.
DeMeco Ryans I think he stayed at 700 the entire time. I'd like to see that number go up. But, Brian Flores is up at plus 150 because, obviously there's a lot that of data out there, or just reports that would suggest that, there are 3 people inside the Arizona Cardinals building right now, and in Michael Bidwill and new Monty Ossenfort, the GM there, and Adrian Wilson, who are very impressed with Brian Flores. So, and the public knows that. So that's why that's at plus 150, and the likelihood of happening very good. Sean Payton continues to be in the 300s. I think that's just because he's a popular name, and he could continue to generate people put money down and donating to DraftKings Sportsbook. I think that Sean Payton could be the next head coach. But I really want to see the DeMeco Ryans number shrink a little bit, get closer to maybe hurdle Vance Joseph, maybe hurdle Sean Payton, and get into the conversation with Brian Flores.
That was going to be my prediction. I predict by this time next week, assuming we don't have a hiring, which I don't think we will, the top 2 names on this for odds are going to be DeMeco Ryans and Brian Flores. I will be shocked if we don't get a word out after Michael Bidwill interviews DeMeco Ryans that they don't love DeMeco Ryans. I mean, just how can you not? And then we know they love Brian Flores. So I don't think any of these guys that have already interviewed are going to get a second interview. I could be wrong here. So, and then we'll see. If Payton ever does schedule that interview, then that's where you can kind of, take your ticket card on DraftKings, put it up to flames.